And truth be told, I could have used this experience to swear off confession forever, to never go back, mainly because it's really dependent on you and your disposition of heart. Just own them, you know? Don't give excuses, don't try to explain yourself, don't try to give some sort of backstory as to why you did something. Simply state what they are, how many times you committed the mortal sin, and then just move on. Just like ripping off a band-aid. Okay guys, confession can feel really awkward, and especially when I was reverting back into my faith back in 2019, I avoided confession like the plague. I think I was actually a couple months into my reversion at that point before I'd even thought or got up the courage to go to confession, which is not what you should do, because in order to actually revert, you do need to go to confession and, you know, confess your sins and be in a state of grace again and all that stuff. But I didn't know that at the time. I was young, I was figuring things out, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, it genuinely took me a couple months before I actually ended up sucking it up and going to confession. And it was weird, I'll be honest. It was really weird going into a tiny box with a person that I had never spoken to before, telling them like all my deepest, darkest secrets. And I was like really, really nervous. And not just because I was telling a stranger all the bad things that I had done over the course of 8 years, but also because I am claustrophobic. And so when hit and we ended up having to do confessions outside, it actually really helped me to become more comfortable with doing a confession in a confessional. I know, such a niche thing, being claustrophobic. I was a teenager, you know what? I had an issue with small, tight spaces. And even though some confessionals are more spacious than others, or they have, you know, an open back or whatever it might be, it was just like horrifying being surrounded by wood and being in a tiny space and talking to someone and telling them my deepest, darkest secrets. Okay, don't at me, I don't know, I was a teenager. And despite my list being very, very long over the course of 8 years, the priest was very, very patient with me. Very grateful for him. He helped me a lot when I was first reverting. But yeah, it took a really long time for me to get into the habit of going to confession without being afraid of confession. And a lot of the times, I think these are all very normal fears that we've all had, where I would be afraid that the priest would recognize my voice, or that the person who was next in line could hear me confessing, or if people were walking by, they could hear my sins. I was also afraid that while writing out my sins on my phone or on a piece of paper or something like that somehow it would magically disappear and somebody would find it or something. But I learned fairly quickly and fairly early on that fear is not from God. Fear is from the devil, and the devil will do everything he possibly can to keep you from being in friendship with God, from being in a state of grace, because if you're not in a state of grace, the devil wins. And he will try to keep you from going to confession through fear, through anxious thoughts, through whatever it might be, because he hates to lose, okay? He's a sore loser. And even though he's already lost, if he can keep you from confession, in some ways he wins. So just remember that. Don't let Satan win. Say, not today, Satan. And I have gotten a lot of questions from you guys about how to make a perfect act of contrition, how to make a perfect confession, how to exactly state your sins, etc. And I talked about the whole epidemic of people who just want to be told what to do because they're so scared and they're so scrupulous about making a mistake that they genuinely cannot function. They need to be told what to do 24/7. I can't tell you how to make a perfect confession, mainly because it's really dependent on you and your disposition of heart. And if your disposition of heart is going to confession and trying to make a perfect confession out of fear, that is not a perfect confession. So I can't tell you how to make a perfect confession. That's just really not how it works. But I can tell you guys how to make a good confession. People ask, do I start with the heavy stuff? Do I sandwich it in the middle? I call that the confession sandwich. Do I pad the heavier stuff with smaller sins so that it doesn't sound as bad? I get it. So I'm really hoping that this video will help any of you guys who are scared or uncertain about confession and give you guys just the little kick in the butt that you need to go to confession, but also realize that this is a place of God's mercy, not judgment. If you guys are new here, hi, I'm Amber Rose. So glad you guys could be with me today, and we're just gonna talk about how confession can be awkward and weird and how to basically just get over it. I honestly think that confession is supposed to feel a little weird, if you ask me. I think we live in a world where we are able to filter our lives so much online. We can basically curate an entire version of ourselves that doesn't actually exist, and we can filter it and we can show it to the world and to thousands and thousands of people, and people actually believe that is the version of us that exists, when in reality, it's not. As humans, we're messy, and when we take the mess out of humanity and we try to be perfect through plastic surgeries and through our curated lifestyles and things like that, people don't see the behind the scenes of the mess, where people are in debt, people have face dysmorphia now or body dysmorphia. No matter how perfect somebody's life might seem, they are messy. And I try to be as honest with you guys as possible about how messy my life is, within reason, of course. I don't overshare. I try not to overshare. I only share things that I'm genuinely comfortable with sharing and that I feel like would actually benefit you guys, not just sharing things to get attention or to get followers and likes and stuff like that. But confession is like that one place that we have left where you can't spin something into a learning moment, or you can't try to fib your way out of it. You just literally have to say what you did wrong and move on. You have to own it, you know, not give an excuse, not be like, well, Father, I only did this because this person did this. No, you literally just have to state what you did, no explanation, no excuses, and you move on, you own it. But I think that's the beautiful thing, because that helps us grow in humility and in submission, and we need those virtues today more than ever. I also think a lot of people think that the priest is behind the screen, basically like going like, what? How could you? Pathetic. They think that he's like keeping score, or that he knows who they are, or that he's just waiting to gasp and, you know, go nuts about something that you did, or even worse, put you in his next homily. But priests have heard it all. You're not special. Your sins are not special. In fact, he's probably bored by your sins. You are not going to shock them. They're not looking at you like you're some horrendous criminal. They are looking at you the same way that a doctor looks at one of their patients. They literally just want to give you the medicine, help you get better, and then move on to the next person. You're not that special. Now, I will say I have heard some horror stories from you guys about some confession horror stories where unfortunately many of you have been hurt by a priest. And I just want to say I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, priests are human and they don't always make the best decisions. And I had an experience like this. I remember a priest who, I don't know if he was having a bad day, I don't really know, but he was like borderline bullying me in the confessional. I was genuinely hurt and shocked at his response to the sins that I was committing. Keep in mind, none of these were mortal sins. So in my mind, I'm like, what are you telling the people who are confessing mortal sins? Like, oh my gosh, dude. And truth be told, I could have used this experience to swear off confession forever, to never go back, to basically become bitter and resentful towards priests and the Catholic faith. I genuinely could have used it as an excuse to stay away from the confessional forever. But once I got past the emotions I was feeling, which were a lot, I realized that this was an opportunity to grow in humility and to grow in patience, and that I should honestly pray for that priest. Basically, I saw God present me with two different opportunities. I could take this bad situation and learn from it and grow from it and take the good out of it, or I could become bitter, I could become resentful, I could become scared of confession. Now, was this an easy decision? Absolutely not. I wrestled with it for days, literal days, actually maybe 2 weeks. Might have been 2 weeks where I actually had to process the emotions through everything and like the betrayal that I felt and blah, 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 blah. Like, I really struggled with it. I avoided that priest until he was eventually put somewhere else. So basically, I wasn't like the bravest person ever. It's not like I went back to confession with him or anything like that, but I was really trying to make the best of a rather scarring situation. And it's not easy, and I'm not expecting people to have the exact same response to it that I did. If you were hurt, you are absolutely valid in feeling hurt, but at some point we're no longer a victim. At some point we do have to take responsibility for the way that we are acting. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel stuck or lost or anything like that, but you cannot stay there, because that is how the devil wins. So I just want you guys to know that, because it is so important that you do not stay in your pain and that you do unite it with Christ and you allow him to turn it into a good situation and to learn from it. Now, before I give you guys my top 4 tips for confession, I first want to tell you guys about today's sponsor. You guys hear me talk about them all the time, but I literally cannot stop. I love Gloria Patri coffee. No matter how you guys like your coffee, whether it's iced or it's hot, it's a drip coffee, it's espresso, you will love Gloria Patri coffee. It was really hard for me to find a coffee company that not only aligned with my morals, but I also love their dark, light, and medium roast. But Gloria Patri fit all of those. And to be honest, as a pregnant woman, I need my coffee. So you guys should try them too. Go to gloriapatri.com and use my code HIPPIE20 at checkout for 20% off. Okay, back to the video. Okay. 4 tips to be less awkward in confession. Let's go. Number 1, be prepared. You know, you do not want to be caught off guard in the confessional. If you are somebody who kneels down and instantly forgets the prayers, forgets your sins, etc., make sure you guys are writing them down, ideally on pen and paper as opposed to your phone so that you don't get distracted. But at this point, I just put my phone on Do Not Disturb and I can easily just type it into my notes app and then easily delete it. So I do that too. But if you easily forget the prayers, make sure you print the prayers out. Sometimes they have the prayers in the confessional to help you with all of that. But yeah, just make sure that if you forget all the time that you guys are prepared so you don't start sweating and panicking and, you know, get super flustered or anything like that. And honestly, if you forget, remember that the priest is there to help you. He's not going to judge you if you've forgotten the prayers or anything like that. If you're like, Father, I don't remember the act of contrition, or maybe like, Father, I don't exactly remember how to do confession, but ideally you would be prepared. Number 2, get the big sins out of the way first. Those are mortal sins. Those are the ones that you feel the most shame about. Those are the ones you should get out of the way first. Just own them, you know? Don't give excuses. Don't try to explain yourself. Don't try to give some sort of backstory as to why you did something. Simply state what they are, how many times you committed the mortal sin, and then just move on. Just like ripping off a band-aid. And honestly, once you get the heaviest sins out there and stuff like that, everything else just kind of flows out naturally, and it makes it a much easier process. Number 3, don't expect life-changing advice from the priest. There are some people who have told me that they have gone to confession expecting the priest to give them life-changing advice or to give them like a 15-minute long spiritual direction session in the confessional. That's not really the place for that. Sometimes a priest is tired, sometimes his advice is basic. But what's most important is receiving absolution. So even if the advice you receive isn't this mind-blowing moment of, yes, you know, I've had some confessions where the priest seemed like he was reading my mind, it was crazy. And then I've had other confessions where I'm like, Father, this is like the lamest advice I've ever received. To be clear, I was friends with that priest, so I can say that. But just get absolution, leave the baggage there, walk out, you're done. That's what matters. And number 4, examine your conscience nightly. I think this one specifically is so important for those who struggle with being afraid of confession. I think sometimes we aren't used to seeing ourselves in a bad light. We try to make excuses for ourselves like, well, I only did X, Y, and Z because X, Y, and Z happened here. Basically, we're not used to seeing all the bad things we've done or calling to mind all the different things that we need to change about ourselves. In some ways, that's actually really scary because we're like, wow, I am like a horrible human being. But the great thing is we have Jesus Christ who redeemed us. So it's okay. I mean, it's not okay. Don't do stuff, but like, you know what I mean. But it is healthy for us to recall sins even if they're not mortal. So every single night, do a quick examination of conscience. It doesn't have to be the long 15-20 minute version that you do once a week before confession. It can just be 5-10 minutes long. I've done a 3-minute long one. Okay, what was I doing that was really good? What was I doing that needed work? Where did I commit a mortal sin? Did I commit a venial sin? Getting used to examining your conscience will not only help you recognize sins and be able to prevent them before you commit them, but it also helps us grow in humility. It helps us grow in prudence. It helps us grow in basically every virtue, actually, now that I think about it. Might as well just list them all. But I do believe that by doing an examination of conscience over and over and over again and going to confession over and over and over again is how you are eventually going to overcome it. Exposure therapy. But yeah, I think a lot of people think their sins are unique or like they're, I don't know, special or shocking or something like that. But in reality, no, they're not. Priests have heard it all before. And to be honest, your sins are unoriginal and pretty dull. And just remember, the priests are not going to remember your sins. They're not going to judge you for your sins. They just want to help you get better and give you that absolution that you need so that you can be in friendship with Christ again. But yeah, we really need to stop viewing confession as a place where we're judged or get beat up vocally by a priest or something like that. Priests don't look at somebody in a confessional and go like, what a loser. They failed so much. I can't believe they even had the courage to come here. Instead, what they think is, wow, this person is really trying and I'm really proud that they came here and I'm going to help them get better. So just remember that next time you go to confession, you feel awkward, you feel scared, you feel like you can't do it, you can do it. And for anybody who needs it, I'm linking some resources for confession below that will give you all the information you need how to make a good confession, an in-depth examination of conscience, and then also the smaller version, the shorter version, examination of conscience, the daily one. So overall, don't be afraid. We're told that 365 times in the Bible, do not be afraid, and it is so real. So with all of that being said, guys, that is all I have for you guys in today's video, but I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!